talk a little before we quickly delve into areas that get out of the unclassed world. I think it's safe to say that any system probably has vulnerabilities. We would be naive if we didn't take a look at that and acknowledge that. As far as I probably go here today with today's is that we look at both protection and attack exploits of the system, realizing that there's things the system can do and there are things that we've done to the system. And so we try to advance both those capabilities in order to address that.
Can I just do one follow-up here? What are you doing to, I noticed you mentioned LO as part of your presentation. What are you doing to increase the LO of the airplane?
Right.
And I think at least some of the things are exterior attachments that are stealthy.
Right. So quickly delve into areas that we go, but it's a combination of material, combination of design, shape, combination of other devices, etc., as in any low RCS airplane. So we continue to perfect those areas that we can to optimize the signature of the airplane. The other thing we found too is that we get better at building, and so we certainly continue to evaluate and measure the airplanes that come off the line, and we've gotten better at not only from adding certain techniques, but also from just the ability to build those better on that. So
is there any sort of unclassified metric that you could say we increase the signature?
No. Okay. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm a little confused by the FAXX program.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain why it seemed to me that we should understand that program as a hedge if the Joint Strike Fighter program either fails or falls into continued trouble. If that's not the right interpretation, then doesn't that set up with the follow-on Super Hornet and the JSF in the same carrier air wing a redundancy in terms of manned strike, with perhaps stealth being the exception?
So it's absolutely not the right interpretation. It takes, if you look, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but if you look at the history of how long it took to develop the F-15, the F-22, any of the major airplanes out there, Hornet for that matter, it takes 20 years plus, right, from where you start and you try to define the requirements and what are you going to need and what technologies are you going to need, and then to move forward to actually go through, establish a requirement, get the funding, etc. So what Super Hornet's been being built now, like I said, at IOC in 2001. So you've got Super Hornets before the first JSF IOCs that are going to be upwards of close to 20 years older than the first operational JSF. So what it is we are a all F-18 fleet today. In that 2020, 2030 time frame, those decades, we intend to be a Super Hornet JSF fleet, and then those Super Hornets are going to be aging out, the early ones. And so now we're going to need to be a JSF and something else fleet, and that something else is the FAXX. So what you're hearing now is the Navy and the Air Force, for that matter, just starting the very beginnings of that with an alternative analysis, what those requirements might be.
So what's the non-redundant mission with and anything else alongside the JSF in the 2030 and on time frame?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What will the FAXX do when the Navy is at a JSF and something else air fleet that will not be redundant with JSF?
Don't know, because that's the point of the whole analysis. What do we need it to do? What will the threat be then? What will JSF be able to cover? What additional capabilities might we need? And that's all the stuff that we're starting to look at now. So that's the whole point.
Thanks.
Okay, yes, sir.
Can you quantify the issues the Navy has had with the onboard oxygen generation system and Super Hornets?
Right.
What you may be doing in response to the Air Force finding on the F-22?
No, absolutely. So a serious issue, obviously. First of all, we've been in very close contact with the Air Force. We share all data between the NAVAIR competencies and programs about all F-18 data, about our efforts, and about the F-22 and all the Air Force efforts they've done. have, we see some similarities and some differences, if you will, on the OBOGs. We have, knock on wood, I think maybe one OBOGs fatality in the course of the OBOG system for the Navy. On that, we certainly have had other instances that have occurred, but we continue to mitigate that and increase the robustness of the mitigation of that through different types of oxygen level sensors, through warning systems in the cockpit, through for the Navy carbon monoxide sensors. So we continue to increase the robustness of that to further mitigate the issue. But have we ID'd exact root cause or solved it? Absolutely not. And so we in the Navy are we in the Air Force are very much tied in what we're finding. What we see though is that the F-22 and the F-18 systems are similarities, but there are differences too. So we're very careful to draw. You can't, they're both fruit, but there's some apple oranges things going on there. Okay.
It's probably safe to say that it's not a manufacturer's issue since there's two different manufacturers with the Air Force and the Navy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're going down that direction, but until we, discover a true smoking gun root cause for these, I wouldn't rule anything out. Right. Yes, sir.
Sir, just continuing on with something that Dave said earlier, the other Dave. What happens to the next generation? I guess the Super Hornet is going to be around for a while, so there's got to be a Block 3 or something that'll keep you guys going until that point you get the FAXX. And I suppose the Navy will probably continue with that incremental strategy and then maybe port over all the avionics to another airframe. Is that something you would consider for FAXX as well? Or?
Yeah, so a couple things. FAXX is not under the purview of the Hornet program, so my ability to comment on where it's going is very limited. The other part of it is we don't have any of the answers to that. I mean, it's just starting to develop those requirements and those discussions and those type of trade-offs. So anything I give you would be disingenuous and speculative at best. So, but I think you've got the gist of it. We'll continue to advance Super Hornet, open architecture, evolutionary development, all that good stuff, like you said. We've only scratched the surface on many of those systems, and FAX will start running its course to determine what it needs to be and what's going to be a brand new technology and what's going to be an import of the latest technology of the day.
Have you got any sort of idea of what specific things you want to do on the Super Hornet yet?
On Super Hornet?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. So, go back to the flight plan discussion. So, what you'll see is we certainly see a lot of advancement on the ESA, whether it's through, back to Dave's discussion of electronic protection, electronic attack, those type of efforts to continue to work that band there. So there's lots of stuff there. Also in targeting, both in an air-to-air and air-to-ground and air-to-maritime surface mode. There's lots of advances to be done there. We talked about IRST and distributed targeting, which are two hardware systems that are coming on the airplane there. Those are big ones. And I'll come back to you if I think of another one of the key ones. But those are some of the areas that we certainly have got a lot of dollars going forward to invest in. Those are some of the key areas that we can get a lot of gain on.
Sir, Dan Taylor in Southern Navy. The 150 Hornets you plan on extending, have you started work on those modifications, or is that coming up anytime soon?
Right. So we have started the high flight hour program. So all the airplanes that the fleet wishes to extend beyond 8,000 hours goes through a high flight hour inspection, and then from there repairs are made and recurring inspections occur in order to extend that life. And then the first two airplanes of that will be the SLEP airplanes that will then get forced retrofits of ECPs that have already been engineered and created in known areas that we'd expect failure or hard to get to areas once we close the airplane back up. Those first two airplanes occur this year, and then we go from there and ramp up. So the short answer is the first SLEP airplanes begin this year. Okay. High flight hours have been going on for a couple of years.
And how long does does that process take to get them to, I mean, I guess it depends
Yeah.
on each aircraft.
It's done in concert with a normal depot period. So as we try to tie all those in together. So the short answer is about 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months in the depot, depending on what else we're doing. We know that we take these airplanes to preventative maintenance inspection at the depot every 4 to 8 years. I'm sorry, yeah, I think that's right. Is that right? 4 to 8 years. On that depends on which cycle you're on. And then we also have center barrel replacements. That's been ongoing for a long time. So what we look to do is find when those airplanes are going in there and they're approaching 8,000 an hour, as you open it up, go ahead and knock out all that stuff. So, but what you find is they'll be in the depot for that 6 to 8 month time frame.
We have time for more questions.
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask about the current ongoing multi-year. Is there any discussion being given to the possibility of needing to go beyond that, given the problems mentioned a little bit earlier with JSF, so the gap fill?
Yeah. So discussions as always. We have a program of record, and that's what we're executing towards. Every budget cycle, we certainly, the Navy and Marine Corps, take a look at all the options, weigh the risks, take a look at the latest situation with F-35, et cetera, and then determine if that program of record needs to be changed. So I would tell you that those answers will come out, or at least some of those answers will, the next set of answers, if you will, would come out in the 13 budget as that goes. So I think it's safe to say that we look at all options every year, but where we're going, don't know yet. Boeing, Boeing's going to talk next, and they certainly are going to preserve as many options as they can. And that's my job as well. My job is to execute the program of record as is, but to provide leadership with options. And that's where we are right now.
Is there any possibility down the line of foreign military sales with the robber, or is that something that's always going to be?
Yeah, well, what we do know is we know that the possibility is there for Australia, and that Australia has provided, we pre-wired 12 of their 24 Fs to ease in a Growler modifications, and so we had the policy for that, and then they have provided a letter of request to go ahead forward and do that this month or last. So that's going forward. Obviously, that's the first step of many before Australia commits fully, but that's going forward. Beyond that, there's nothing active right now. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. If you have additional questions, we take them in the back. This only has a brief now.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.